The road continues for Ryan Garcia at the end of the day. It continues. And let's see what happens from here on out, man. He had an advantage because he didn't have to drain his resolve. He didn't have to take from himself to make that weight. So he came in the fight full already with energy, and he was able to recoup. Whereas Devin, he came in there with less of himself because he actually made the damn weight like a professional supposed to. If you want to get credit in this game, act and be like a professional, bro. You make that contract to weight. I have no issues with that. You dominate the fight. Good, great, fantastic. You proved me wrong. You were the better fighter at the end of the day. But that's not what happened. They planned this shit not to make this weight, man. He knew he couldn't make 140, man. Trust me, he knew it because he talked about it in interviews. I can't make 140. That's why I fight at 143. Like, I never intended to make 140. That came out of his mouth. Not out of my mouth. That came out of his mouth.
Now, we'll stick with world title fights. Canelo has used the catchweight thing. Floyd's used the catchweight thing. Manny Pacquiao has used the catchweight thing. Gervonta Davis recently used it. The rehydration. Either catchweight or rehydration. Yeah? A few of the A-side fighters have used it in modern day boxing. The issue with Jose Luis Castillo and Ryan Garcia, in my opinion, neither had any intentions of making weight. When you leave it to the weigh-in to decide you're not going to take off the excess weight, and it's take it or leave it, the fighter who has made the weight has the dilemma, knowing that they've literally depleted themselves. You can see in this picture here, Devin's eyes are sunken in. Ade made an observation about Devin's eyes, the way they look sunken in. The difference between Floyd, Canelo, Pacquiao, and Gervonta Davis using rehydration clause or catch weights, the difference is their opponents knew months in advance what they were signing up to. So, although it's not ideal, they at least have their training camp to prep for the catch weight, to prep for the rehydration clause. What the likes of Jose Luis Castillo and Ryan Garcia does, however, gives their opponent little time to adjust to these new circumstances. And it's a little cowardly, in all truth. If you got it stipulated into the contract before your opponent goes into camp, I might disapprove. But it's way, way, way better than having this thrown on you at the last minute when people have bought their tickets, their pay-per-view. Your opponent don't want to fuck the show up. And I believe Oscar, Bernard, they was all in on it. This was their plan all along. Derek James, you two, this was your plan. But ultimately, Devin and Bill accepted the terms. They took the money, and the rest is history. Listening to all the arguments for and against, and perhaps what Devin should have done is said, yeah, I'll go through with the fight if Ryan agrees to a 10-pound rehydration weigh-in on Saturday morning. Eddie Hearn spoke about it and said,
you said to me at the weigh-in that there was obviously no rehydration clause put in for the following morning, and I asked you after the fight, was there regrets, and you said possibly. But was it discussed?
Yeah, from our side, from Matchroom's side, we felt there should have been a reweigh on Saturday. It was chosen not to be pushed, and I feel that's a mistake. But I also understand that Devin rehydrates to massive numbers, but it's got nothing to do with Devin. You see, what would happen in that situation, I've been there 50 times on both sides of the street there when someone misses weight. You always try and get the fighter to rehydrate on a Saturday. A lot of the time they don't want to do it, of course, but it's how far you can push them. Now, maybe Ryan Garcia was the type of guy that would have just walked away and gone, all right, don't worry about it, I won't fight. And I'm sure that was a concern for Bill's as well. Bill wanted to fight. Everybody believed we could win regardless of the weight. Of course, the financial penalty was there, but Bill also probably felt that Devin rehydrates to massive numbers. We don't really want to reweigh either, you know? But you shouldn't have to, because Ryan's the guy that missed the weight. So hindsight's a great thing, you know, and I think if they would have pushed the Saturday weigh-in, there would have been a big chance that the fight wouldn't have taken place.
They should have got a rehydration clause in there. And perhaps they caught Bill out, Bill Haney out. They took advantage of his naivety. Doesn't have as much experience as Matchroom in these situations. Yeah, Devin may have not wanted to weigh in a second day, but what other options do you have? I mean, Ryan's just refueling. And obviously that was the game plan, to refuel and get big. You need to stop that in its tracks a little. And they didn't do that. And as for Ryan walking away from the table, well, regardless if the fight goes ahead or not, he's got to pay Devin that 1.5 because he missed the weigh-in. And it's not like Devin's saying he won't fight. Yo, we do this rehydration clause and we're good to go. If you want to walk away, 1.5 million down, even though he was bragging that it's no money to him, we're going then. 1.5 million down, no chance to recoup none of that because you're not getting paid. But it looks like GOLDENBOY ran all over Bill Haney on this one. Got to keep it real. When Henry Garcia was running his mouth on Eddie Hearn, how his son is beating up his fighters from Luke Campbell to Devin Haney, who you got left holding his crutch? Like he was some thug. That was funny. Eddie said, "Boots Ennis, Boots Ennis." And that's when Henry turned friendly. He became friendly. Ryan, I think having no belt kind of suits him. You know, he's got an option of fighters he can fight. He's not tied down to any mandatories. And he will, if he can carry on this trajectory, become one of the highest paid boxers out there. He definitely will. What I'm actually saying, he's one of the highest paid boxers already. But yeah, Ryan's claiming he'd fight Boots Ennis. Ryan also called out Conor BENN. He'll come over to London and do damage. He's calling a few people out. Conor congratulated Ryan on his win. He gave Devin credit for getting off the canvas 3 times. But Conor said he'll punch Ryan's teeth down his throat. Be a good matchup, actually. I believe he also called out Errol Spence. And they've had a... Well, Ryan said a few words about Errol not paying Derek James for the Crawford fight. I'd like to see that fight. Ryan versus Errol Spence. That's the one I'd like to see. Gervonta Davis, notorious clout chaser. In fact, the PBC, you know, there's some serious opportunistic clout chasers who took full advantage of the aftermath by playing Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia. Yeah, I mean, they're playing that today. Live stream on YouTube. Tank, post-fight, tweeted, "Forget Devin, where Bill at? Where Dirt at? Who's Dirt?" He then added, "And what about you dick-riding ass people? Yeah, I'm going to give you all the address to Dirt Spot in Cherry Hill. Need you all to send mad pics, a big-ass poster to his crib of Devin, ass in the air. Pause." I don't know what he's talking about. And I'm not sure I really care. Then he turned his attentions to Ryan, and he posted up this tweet, then took it down. Because that's what Gervonta Davis does. Puts up tweets, takes them down, puts up tweets, takes them down. It's best Ryan retire now. He's going to get hurt bad. He took that one down. Twitter, they thought it was a little too early for AZIM to be dispensing advice on how Devin Haney should have fought Ryan Garcia. He added his tuppence and said, "Devin Haney was supposed to be the person with the ring IQ, flabbergasted as why he was trying to hook with a hooker after he kept getting hurt. I would be boxing Garcia on the outside away from his left hook." And a few people replied to what he had to say about the fight, but for the most part, they were replying, "This is a world level fight. You are not ready for European level, remember." And it just kept going and kept going and kept going, you know. Bro talks too much just to pull out of his fight against Smith. Mate, you ducked out of the Smith fight. You won't be boxing Garcia though. You won't even fight Dalton Smith. But yeah, but your chin would be even further up in the air and you'll get knocked out inside 6 minutes. Bitch, you can't really comment on Haney. When he was 21, he fought multi-weight champion Jorge Linares while you are vacating titles, pulling out from fights, and it kept going and kept going. Too early, too early, too early. You know what I mean? The pull-out from the Dalton Smith is too fresh in the boxing fans' minds. Sources Michael Benson, sources at Shava ESPN. Terence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov for Madrimov's WBA 154-pound title. Scheduled date, August the 3rd in LA. Just catching this receipt here, they're throwing a few more trinkets into the booty. The WBO are reportedly set to sanction that fight for their WBO interim belt, as well as Madrimov's WBA super welterweight title, and Sebastian Fundora to defend his WBO super welterweight title versus the winner, with the fight to take place by December the 31st. Bit confusing, really. Not going to complain because we will have a unification scheduled for December. So, no complaints. Let's run down the undercard. Isaac Cruz versus Jose Valenzuela for that WBA lightweight title. That'll probably be fight of the night. That's a serious matchup. Check this one out. Andy Ruiz versus Jarrell Miller. I like that. Leo Santa Cruz versus Abner Maris 3. Got an LA feel to it, the card, with the Mexican matchups there. Very good matchups. Santa Cruz versus Abner Maris. Little past their best, but still a very good matchup. Not really necessary though, a third fight between Abner Maris and Cruz. Cruz is 2-0 up. Not like a rubber match or anything. And that's a good undercard. I know a lot of you ain't going to do the historical research. If you do the historical research on big fights and look at the undercards, this is a very good undercard. It is. It is what it is. I'm not going to tell everyone that there's too much focus on the undercard, because these days we have more access to the entire undercard than in previous years, so people are focusing on it more. That's understandable, but this is a good undercard. Turkey Al-Sheikh, American debut, August the 3rd. Going, back to Cali. A lot of PBC fighters on the card, or maybe ex-PBC fighters. Exodus, movement of Al Haymon's people. They're all fighting on Matchroom cards.
And again, nobody's going over to fighting on that dead zone.
Bob Arum stands in opposition to the 6 judges proposed by Mauricio Sulaiman for Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury, undisputed heavyweight title. Tyson Fury's co-promoter said, "You don't put 6 judges in something like that for the first time dealing with a major fight from the standpoint of visibility and importance," is what he told Boxing Scene. Maybe 6 judges are better than 3. I doubt that, but maybe. Nobody knows because it hasn't been done. And at least you experiment with that with fights that are not as prominent. With all due respect to my friend Mauricio, who's a really good guy, loves the sport of boxing, has done a great job with the WBC. I wouldn't do it for this fight. And basically, I don't believe the judging becomes better because you have 6 judges rather than 3. And I agree. These bums, they go and they rob from that kid. He earned it. The kid went in there and took a risk that these judges don't take. How dare they do that? Barboza, as Teddy Atlas talking about the ridiculous split decision win Arnold Barboza got over Sean McComb on the Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia undercard. The controversy has went under the radar because everybody's obviously talking about Ryan's big win. But nevertheless, it's one of the worst robberies I've seen. And on this occasion, I agree with Teddy Atlas. That was a corrupt decision. That was horrible. To rip it right out of his chest like some kind of kung fu movie where you go in there and you rip the heart right out. To rip all his hopes and end all his dreams right out of his chest when he came over here to change his life is horrible. Agreed. And it says here, the viewer scored it a 100-90 whitewash on BoxRec. Wow. That was terrible. The only honest thing about this fucking sport is the fighters. The administrators of the sport are not honest. Cus D'Amato would say to me, "Teddy, that kind of decision could be one of 2 things, either complete and utter incompetence or corruption." And then he would say to me, "Teddy, nobody could be that incompetent, so it's got to be corruption," in other words. 100%.
And he won this damn fight. Right. This is a disgrace.
Listen, Teddy, I just grabbed the score sheet from the ring announcer.
This is a disgrace here. There should be an investigation. This is what's wrong with boxing. This is what chases our great fans away from this great sport.
Son of UK boxing legend Campbell Hatton, 23 years of age, 14-1-0, lost his unbeaten record to James Flint on a Dalton Smith Zabeda undercard. Campbell was challenging James Flint for the British Boxing Board of Control's Central Area Super Lightweight title, and he lost a unanimous decision. Gave it his all. He has now parted company with Matthew Hatton, his uncle, and Ricky's brother, and he's now being trained by Ben Davison. I think Barry Smith, though, will be handling most of Hatton's training duties, and Ben will be there, obviously, keeping an observant eye on the proceedings. And as long as they do sensible matchmaking and have realistic goals for Hatton, he could have a decent career. So, dealing with this weekend's upcoming boxing, this one has went under the radar, so much so that BoxRec haven't even updated any fight information, location, date or anything. They haven't even updated. Saturday, April the 27th is what I'm talking about, where Jose Carlos Ramirez, former unified 140-pound champion, still in the light welterweight division. I actually thought he moved up for some reason, but he's still in the welterweight division. he takes on RANCES Barthélemy. And Virgil Ortiz takes on Thomas Delorme. And like they say in boxing scene, both opponents are uninspiring choices. Not the worst opponents, but nevertheless uninspiring. Looking at co-main and main event, there's a lot of inactivity between all four fighters. Virgil Ortiz, obviously he was ill 2023. This is his second fight since August 2022. He stopped Frederick Lawson in 1 round earlier this year. And he definitely needs some activity. Very inactive. Not through his fault inactive, but nevertheless inactive. Jose Ramirez, since losing that UD for the undisputed light welterweight titles in 2021 against Josh Taylor, he's had 2 fights. The Jose Pedraza win and the Richard Commey win. Thomas Delorme, Virgil Ortiz's opponent, hasn't fought through the whole of 2023. In 2022 he got a stoppage win against Abraham Peralta, and in October 2021 he was knocked out quick by Jerome Boots Ennis. Rances Barthélemy used to be a good fighter. I'm not saying he's not anymore. He was stopped in 2022 by Gary Antoine Russell, who is a hot prospect in all fairness. I believe he can still give Jose Ramirez a decent fight. Former lightweight champion himself can give Ramirez a good fight. But Thomas Delorme at 154 against Virgil Ortiz, I don't like the chances of that one getting outside the 5th round. A few more fights on the undercard. Oscar Duarte, who was doing well against Ryan Garcia recently, till he got stopped. He takes on Joseph Diaz in a battle of lightweights, hoping to breathe some life into their careers. That's not a bad matchup. It's not a bad matchup. Unified Women's Flyweight Champion Marlene Esparza has a rematch with Gabriela Alanis. It all takes place at the Save Mart Center, Fresno.